Hello everyone, welcome to Euron, and this is our first lecture guys with respect to MCP, the MCP syllabus that we have released, and we will start talking about this MCP model context protocol in a very detailed way. So one by one in a step-by-step manner, as MCP is getting a lot of traction in 2025, but it was actually released in 2024 November. So initially it was designed by Anthropic Claude, and then they have made it as an open source so that other people will be able to contribute and they will be able to build a MCP server. Now, I'm not going to take a very fancy approach to explain you the concept of MCP because I don't think that it requires those fancy words or like those complex things to explain you the MCP. MCP is very simple. In one single line, if you are going to ask me that what is MCP according to you, so it's nothing but giving an access to any kind of a AI tool. I believe we all are using some sort of a AI tool nowadays. For example, a Claude, maybe a ChatGPT, maybe a Gemini, maybe a Perplexity, maybe a DeepSeek, something like that, right? So I believe these LLMs or these AIs is like a part of our day-to-day life. And even we have a lot of AI inside our system, inside Euron, like a Yuri. So we have a multiple model access, multiple AI we have integrated even over there. So when it comes to MCP, in a very simple way, giving an access to an AI to take an action on behalf of me. Now, what is the meaning of it? So let's suppose if I'm trying to like book a cab. Now, unless and until someone is, let's suppose I have asked my assistant that, okay, so can you please book a cab? So unless and until your assistant is not having an access of an app, maybe Ola, maybe Uber, unless and until your payment gateway is not connected, unless and until your assistant don't know that from like which point to which point you are supposed to travel or where you have to go, unless and until your assistant is not aware about your schedule, or unless and until your assistant is not aware about like an event or like a place where you're trying to go or where you're planning to travel, how they will be able to book a cab, right? Now, this is where MCP comes into a picture. MCP says that if you are going to give me an access, right? Basically, it's a AI inside it. So it says that if you are going to give me an access of all the files, all the functions, all the tools, what I will do is I'll try to make a smart move. I'll try to make an intelligent decision on behalf of you. You can sit tight at your home or wherever you are, and I'm going to book a cab for you. If I know where you are traveling, if I have an access of a payment gateway, if I have an access of your app, so if I have all the data access, all the tool access, all the file access, all the things that is required to perform a particular task, if I have an access about each and everything, I will be able to complete a task just on one single say or one single command. You must have seen a Jarvis. Again, another example I'm trying to give you. You must have seen a Jarvis in a Iron Man movie, a movie which is one of my favorite movie, and I believe it's one of the favorite movie for all of us. So I believe we all have seen a movie Jarvis, and in Jarvis, Tony Stark, Iron Man, so he was giving a command to a Jarvis to do some sort, to build some sort of a simulation. It was able to do it, to perform some sort of a action, some sort of a risk analysis, some sort of a threat analysis, or access some sort of a camera on a street, maybe at a home or maybe in some different country. And Jarvis was able to do it. Jarvis was even able to perform some sort of a action, some sort of a analytics on top of it. So it was an AI robot, and it was able to not just access a data, but it was able to perform even some sort of a task. Now, again, if I'm going to relate it with MCP, so how it is basically related? So here, MCP is nothing but a kind of open-ended protocol, you can say. So MCP is nothing but a kind of open-ended protocol, or like an open protocol, a new protocol. A protocol is nothing but a set of rules, just like a APIs, where we try to follow HTTPS protocol. So a kind of a protocol, so where your AI is going to take a charge, your GPT, your Claude, your Perplexity, your Gemini is going to take a charge. It will be able to interact with all the tool, all the data, all the other API, all the other environment by itself in a standardized way, and it is going to perform an action for you. Like I have given an example of booking a cab. Maybe you are trying to maybe build a project. Now, if MCP is aware about, if your entire like a system or the system that you're trying to build, if it is aware about that, what is like a product that you're trying to build, what are the features that you are looking for, what is some edge cases that I'm supposed to handle, obviously system will be able to handle it, system will be able to build it automatically. And I believe most of us are trying to use AI to perform such kind of a operation. So again, here MCP is nothing but a standardized protocol which allows AI to access other environment, other tool, other framework. And if I'll try to compare these things with a legacy system, so I think most of us are aware about an API. So where API was nothing but, it was a protocol. So where a heterogeneous system will be able to communicate with each other. It will be able to transfer a data by calling some sort of a functions or modal between each other. Now here, we are trying to take one step ahead. And we are not just trying to call the data, we are even trying to give an access of an app, access of a tool, access of a complete function, or maybe access of my complete desktop, or maybe like a server that I have. And then I'm just trying to ask AI that, okay, perform this task. AI will go automatically. It will try to bring down all the files or whatever tool it is supposed to access. It will be able to access each and everything. And it is going to take some action, or it is going to give me some result. So MCP is nothing but a protocol by which you are going to allow AI to access each and everything. Now, it was not available so far. So if, let me share my screen, I have to write something. So let's suppose if I have to access my Google file, if I have a file in my OneDrive, if I have a PDF in my local system, or maybe if I have something in my S3 bucket, obviously I can access all of these things one by one. I can just write an API, and maybe I can write an API, a Python code, and I will be able to access one by one, one by one, one by one. But now, if I'm trying to write an API for this Google file system, I have to write in a different way. I have to follow the approach which Google file system has defined. Now, if I have to connect with my own drive, I have to follow the different approach. If I have to access a PDF from a local system, I have to follow the different approach. If I have to access S3, I have to write a different approach. If I have to access a SQL system, I have to use a different kind of a connector. Now, I'm trying to connect with all the other system which you are able to see in my screen, but in a different way. Yes, that's a major pain point, because there are tons of system, thousands of system, 10,000s of system which exist in this entire world, where we all try to connect on a day-to-day basis, right? Where all the business or all the tech that we have developed will try to connect individually in a different basis. So I'll have to write a function for this. I'll have to write a function for this. I have to write a function for this. I have to write a function for this. I have to write a function for this. Now that's a pain. That's a real pain for us, right? Because we are writing an API. We are testing all those API. We are writing a separate functions to perform even a separate operation just with the Google file system. It's not like only one single function, one single API is going to work for all the operations. Maybe you have to write a multiple API for this, multiple for this, multiple for this, multiple for this, and for this, right? Maybe to perform a read, write, delete, update, different kind of operations, right? Okay. Now, so this was the approach that we have been following so far. Now, these guys Anthropic, Cloud, they said that okay, it is possible to build one new set of the rule, right? One new set of the system, a new set of the rule, just like an API, which works on HTTP protocol. So it's possible to write a different kind of a rule by which, if all of them are going to adopt it, if they are not adopting it, if someone is not writing it, then obviously it is not going to work. But yeah, if all of them are going to adopt it, then instead of writing a different function, maybe I can try to write a simple procedure by which I will be able to access a file system, a complete file system, maybe a Notion, maybe SQL, maybe S3, maybe PDF. And this is where this concept of MCP comes into a picture. So it's nothing but it's a protocol. model context protocol. Now it's a protocol. Protocol is nothing but a set of the rule that, okay, follow this rule the way you are following in case of a API, and then expose your system to whom? To basically a models, to basically a AI. Just try to expose to the AI so that my AI will be able to access, right? So that my AI, and when I say AI, so I'm talking about maybe open AI, I'm talking about maybe Cloud Ape, I'm talking about maybe Opexlity, I'm talking about maybe Gemini. So that my AI will be having an access of different tools, system, file system, functions, or maybe a different API altogether. My AI will be able to connect automatically. It will be able to bring automatically, means whenever, as and when we are going to like connect it. So it is going to bring all the information into one single system, one singular system, and then it will be able to perform the operation, perform all kind of operations automatically. For example, even now we can upload a document inside a ChatGPT, and then we can ask ChatGPT to summarize it, rewrite it. We can even ask a question based on the data which is available inside the document. Now ChatGPT will be able to give you those answers, and all the other AI which exist in this market, even they will be able to give you all the information. But if it is supposed to interact with all the other system like a Google file system or all the other system which I have mentioned over here, so obviously you need a connector. One way is given access with the help of AI. Other way is create a protocol, create a set of the rule, so that without even writing an API, it will be able to access the entire tool, operation system, functions, API, everything, and then it will be able to call an action automatically. It will be able to use its intelligent brain, and at the end of the day, it will be able to perform your task. That is MCP. So guys, I believe MCP concept is pretty much clear to all of you, that MCP is nothing but a set of the rule, or alternative of the API. You can think as of now as a beginner, and as we are going to progress inside our class, so as we are going to see a lot of examples, a lot of practical example obviously, so you will be able to correlate more and more and more. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's just a set of the rule, it's just a protocol which is allowing all the system to expose itself to an AI, to a model, so that model will be able to access all the information, all the tool, all the functionalities, all the app, all the systems, and it will be able to take a decision. Now let's go to an official. I'm going to attach this particular link inside your dashboard, by the way. So let's go to an official documentation of this model context protocol. So there is a website called as modelcontextprotocol.io, and here you can go and you can try to read out about an MCP, and you will be able to find out the exact same thing, maybe by different example, by different taking a different analogy, but yeah, you will be able to find out the exact same thing. And most of the things which is mentioned over here, we are going to cover in our upcoming lectures as well. So here, what MCP is. So let me open up my, not a scribble ink, my Epic pen, so that I can write something on my screen. Yeah. So MCP is an open protocol, like I have mentioned, that standardize how application provide a context to a LLM. So application provide means any kind of application, any kind of a system, any kind of a things will be able to provide a context to a LLM the way we are uploading a file. So we are technically trying to provide a context to a LLM. Whenever we do a RAG, we try to provide a context to a LLM, right? Based on that, model will be able to give me a response. This is where RAG comes into a picture. Retrieval augmented generation comes into a picture. So this is another way by which we are just standardizing it. We are just writing a new set of the rule. So here they are telling that think of MCP like a USB-C port. I believe USB-C port is available everywhere, and it's a kind of a standardized port. So where we will be able to do a data transfer, charge, a lot of things, right? So just USB-C provides a standardized way to connect your device to a various peripheral and accessories. MCP provides the standardized way to connect an AI model to a different data sources. That's it. So MCP is what? It's a protocol. It's a standardized approach. It's an extension of an API that we have been talking about since a very long time, or we have been using the API since a very long time. So it's not a very first time that we are using an API, right? So basically this MCP protocol is been designed specifically for a LLMs, specifically for a AI, so that my AI will be able to take an action. So MCP helps you to build an agent and a complex workflow on top of the LLMs. At the end of the day, LLMs frequently need to integrate with the data, tool, and MCP providers, a growing list of pre-built integration that your LLM can directly plug in into, and it will be able to access something and it will be able to take a decision. And here, a very simple architecture is given to you, but in my next lecture, next video, I'm going to talk about what is basically host, what is basically client, what is server. All of these things I'm going to discuss one by one. So hope guys, all of you are able to understand MCP, obviously, right? So all of you are able to understand what is MCP in a layman way, and I'm assuming that you must be able to correlate this concept of MCP with a concept of an API. Now, so why it matters in 2025? So I believe as AI is growing, so we want our system, we want our tasks to be more and more automated, more and more intelligent system we are looking for. A less number of code will have to write and more number of system I will be able to use. So I'm looking for, or we all are looking for such kind of an environment, and that's the reason it matters a lot in 2025. So with that guys, thank you so much. See you again in my next lecture. Okay everyone, so in last lecture we were trying to understand what is MCP by taking a different kind of example in a layman way. Now in this chapter, let's try to understand that what are the major component that you are going to encounter while building a MCP. So there is something called as host, and then client, then server, and then tools, which comes into a picture. And majorly you are going to work inside a host, client, server, or tool, or maybe all of these four things all together. So let's try to understand that what is this host, what is this client, what is this server, and what is this tool, and what they are going to do, what kind of operation it is going to perform in a step-by-step manner. Let's try to understand that part. So I'm just going to explain you with a very simple example. So don't worry about understanding. You all will be able to understand hopefully. So I believe my screen is visible to all of you. So if I'm going to talk about a host, so basically host is nothing but a AI interface, AI interface. So obviously whenever we are going to talk about MCP, so model will come into a picture, LLMs will come into a picture. So basically whenever I say host, sometime it is going to be even me, or sometime it is going to be my like a voice assistance, or sometime it is going to be the AI interface. So in general it is going to be the intelligent system, but as of now you can say that host is going to be the AI interface. Again, I'm going to give you one layman example, so by which you will be able to understand very soon. So here maybe my host could be Cloud, my host could be Chat GPT, or any other LLMs I'm going to consider. So they are going to be my host. Now when I say a client, there is a second component which is called as client, which will come into a picture with respect to MCP. So basically client is nothing but a kind of a configuration, so which is going to help you out to connect your host. Basically host is nothing but AI machine, right, or AI system. So which is going to help me out to connect with a host with one single server or a multiple server at a time. So server means what? So basically client is nothing but, let me write down and then I'm going to explain. So this will help me out to connect my host with one or more server, right? So for example, so if I'm going to ask my AI that try to make a coffee for me, and parallelly if I'm going to ask that check a schedule and tell me that whether I have some sort of a break during lunchtime, or maybe like between 12 o'clock to 2 o'clock or not. So I'm asking my AI to perform two tasks. One, prepare a coffee for me basically, and second task which I'm going to ask that check my calendar, or check my all the like a schedule, so whatever schedule and wherever it is available. So let's suppose if you have access of a Google Calendar or my Outlook calendar, so go and check it and then let me know that what is my available schedule today. Now so this is a client which will come in between, so between host and between a server. So it is going to connect host, means my AI system, with what? A multiple server or maybe one server. So one server which is responsible for making a coffee, and one server which is responsible for checking my schedule. Means I have two processes, and this is where my client comes into a picture. Now if I'll talk about a server, so server is nothing but it's going to be a kind of a function, or maybe it's going to be a kind of a like a tool by which I am going to expose my entire system. So for example, if I'm trying to write like if I'm trying to read something from a PDF, so obviously a PDF reader I'm going to use, or maybe if I'm trying to do maybe some sort of a database operation, so some DB connectivity I'm going to use, or maybe some DB I will try to access. Maybe if I'm trying to do a web search over here, so some API, something I'm going to use. So all of these things will be maintained and managed. The core task that you are going to perform will be maintained and managed inside which place? Inside a server. So client may ask, depends upon the AI or depends upon the host, that read a PDF or maybe read a databases, do some sort of a web search, depends. So this will be connected with one server or maybe a multiple server. Server is going to be maybe different for this, and for this one. So I believe host, client and server is pretty much clear to all of us. Now, what is the meaning of this tool? So tool is nothing but a functionality or AI that we are going to call to perform some operation. So this is nothing but a function or API that we are going to call, which can be used by my AI or model. So this is where a tools comes into a picture. Now let's take a simple layman example with which we will try to understand this host, client, server and tool analogy. So here I have written one. So while I was trying to record the same video, take one, I have made some mistakes for recording once again. Let me talk about this entire analogy once again. Yeah. So here basically like I'm going to like maybe a coffee store, maybe I'm going to a CCD, and I'm going to order a coffee. So and parallelly, so maybe I'm like asking my AI that, okay, so or maybe I'm just going to like my AI and then asking, I'm saying that from CCD, order a coffee for me, order coffee for me, and then second one is check my schedule from my calendar, right? And it is having an access. It is having an access of my app and it is having access of my calendar. So basically I'm asking two tasks from my AI that try to complete these two tasks. Now what it will do, what my AI is going to perform, what my AI is going to do, and what is going to behave like a host over here, what is going to behave like a client over here, what is going to behave like a server over here, or what is going to behave like a tool over here. So here MCP host is going to be, the very first component was what? The very first component was basically a host, right? So we had a host. So here MCP host is going to be basically my AI system, or you can say cloud day, or maybe my GPT system. Now what this system is going to do? So basically it is going to interpret the request. It is going to understand that what I am looking for, and then it will try to understand that how it will be fulfilled. So it will try to understand that, okay, I'm looking for maybe making a coffee. So I'm looking for making a coffee, make coffee, and I'm looking for check schedule, right? So I'm looking for basically two things over here. Now this is something which my AI will be able to understand, because I'm going to interact with AI in a layman language. Like I'm maybe going to just give a command in English, maybe in Hindi, maybe like in Tamil, Telugu, or maybe by using Spanish or French language, right? So I can try to use any of my languages and I can try to give a command to my AI, and my AI, which is a host, my host is going to understand. It is going to interpret, because unless and until it is not going to understand me that what I'm looking for, how it is going to complete the task. And yes, AI is smart enough, which is going to understand, which is going to interpret me in my language. Okay, so interpretation is done. Now AI is able to understand that what I'm expecting, what kind of a task I'm asking my AI to perform. Now part number two, it will go to the client. right? This is the second part that we have. So it will go to the client. Now, what is the client over here? So client is nothing but, as I have already mentioned, that client is nothing but it is going to help. It is going to help whom? It is going to help host, by the way, to connect with one or multiple server, a unit which is going to actually process the task based on the understanding of my AI or host, right? So basically what my client over here, so here what my MCP client is going to do, what my MCP client is going to do over here. So it is going to send a request basically to MCP servers based on the task which I have defined. So I have defined basically two tasks. So let's suppose I have written a code to make a coffee or prepare a coffee or to order a coffee for me. And then there is another system which I have to check a schedule. So this client is going to invoke these two systems. It depends upon the task which I have listed over here. Now, once that is done, it will go to the server. The step number 3, obviously, it is going to go to the server. And then inside a server, if you have written make coffee, and obviously inside this function, you must have written each and everything. And if you have a server, right? If you have a server to check a schedule, so it is going to connect with these two servers. It is going to execute a functionality, right? So basically what it is trying to do is, so it is basically talking to your app, or it is talking to your smart coffee machine to build make a coffee for you. And then it is basically checking your calendar, and it is just trying to check the availability that you have. And then, right, so once server will be done over here, then you are going to get what? So then you are going to get your final response, and that response you will be able to get again from an AI itself. So system is going to give you something, and then AI is going to give you a response saying that I have, or I have ordered your coffee, and then it is going to give you a response that you have a free schedule between 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. right? So it is going to give me these two report at the end of the day in my language, in my word. It is communicating with all the other system in its own way by using the MCP protocol. By the way, it is trying to communicate with all the system, but yeah, at the end of the day, it is going to give me a response in my way. So this is where this entire architecture or entire situation of this MCP host client, and then this is basically a server comes into a picture. Now at the end of the day, we have basically a tool, right? As we have already discussed about basically a tool over here. So tool is nothing but a functionality. As I have already mentioned, that server may be using some sort of a tool internally to build a coffee or check the schedule, or maybe some sort of functionality it must be using, some sort of an API it must be using. So tool will be consumed inside the server over here. So hope these four concepts are pretty much clear: the host, client, server, and tool. Now, see you again in my next lecture, guys. Till then, thank you so much. Welcome to the lecture, everyone. So in this lecture, we are going to understand that what is a major difference you all will be able to find out between an API, LangChain, RAG, and MCP. So I'm just going to talk about 4 or 5 common differences. I'm not going to talk much about it because as we are going to progress inside the lecture, we will be talking more and more about it. And again, we will be able to understand in a much better way. So here we have to understand that what is the difference between APIs. So basically APIs, and then second is RAG, third is LangChain, and the fourth is basically MCP. Now, difference between all of these 4 we are supposed to understand. So we'll take a couple of points over here, and with the help of those points, we will try to understand. Now, so if I'll talk about maybe an API, and if I have to execute something, if I have to maybe do some sort of a search with respect to a DB, if I have to read some sort of a PDF file, if I have to access something from a Google Drive, Means if I'm trying to access some tool in terms of MCP, the tool is nothing but a functionalities and APIs, right? So if I have to access it with the help of API, so I have to call it manually. So one by one, as and when it is like a required. So manually I have to call it. Unless and until I'm not calling the API, I will not be able to get that task done. Now, at the same point of a time, if I'm trying to do a tool calling, so tool calling basically. So I have to call it manually. Now, in case of RAG, basically, I have to do what? So I will not be able to do a tool calling directly. So basically, I will like only be able to retrieve something at the end of the day with the help of RAG, because what RAG does, it will try to do a vector matching, and based on the vector matching, so it will try to retrieve the data. So it is just going to perform a read operation, or it is going to perform the retrieval operation. Nothing more than that it is going to perform. Now, if I'll talk about a LangChain, if it is trying to access some of the tool, so obviously LangChain will be able to access it with the help of maybe a tool wrapper, or it will be able to access it with the help of agents. So obviously LangChain is way more smarter as compared to RAG approach, or as compared to the API approach. Now, if I'll talk about MCP, and as I have already discussed in my previous lecture, that your MCP, you are just going to give a command, automatically it is going to do a tool calling, means automatically it is trying to do a functionality calling. You are not doing much over here. You're just asking in your own language, right? So MCP will be able to do it with the help of a protocol, because this is where MCP comes into a picture. So in a auto mode, it will be able to do a tool calling. So obviously tool calling means simple, guys, and never get confused. Tool calling means I'm talking about a function or API execution, right? So it will be able to call the function, or it will be able to execute the API automatically. Now, if I'll talk about a second difference in terms of setup complexity, right? So obviously setup complexity in terms of API is very, very high for each and every, like even a small operation. You have to write a lot of APIs, right? You have to maintain it. You have to test it. So it's a very like a high-end approach, or it's like a lot of manual approach that comes into a picture. Now, at the same point of a time, if I'll talk about a RAG, it's not much. You just have to set up a vector DB and then like connect with your LLMs. That's it. This is what you are supposed to do. So I will say that over here, a setup complexity wise. So basically it's a medium that you will be able to find out. Again, if I'll talk about a LangChain, so it's a medium setup that we used to do, nothing much, and it's not that tough at all. Now, if I'll talk about a MCP, so everything is been exposed just as a MCP protocol. So obviously it's very, very low in terms of doing a setup. So very low, like a effort job that you are going to do it in terms of doing a setup. Now, if I'll talk about LLM compatibility, right? So here, sorry, I have taken a lot of space even for LLM access, let's suppose. Not at all. So my API will not be able to access the LLM unless and until manually I'm not going to provide it. There is no automated way, or there is no predefined set of a rule by which API should and always should be able to access the LLMs. Not at all. Now, if I'll talk about a RAG, so obviously it will be aware about a context with respect to the LLM. So context aware, I can write over here. Now, so if I'll talk about a LangChain, obviously it will be having a LLM access. So LLM, I can say yes, it will be having an access in terms of a LangChain, because on top of that, it is going to perform all the different kind of a operation. But mostly it is going to work with OpenAI. Mostly it is going to work with the OpenAI. Now, if I'll talk about MCP, so it is going to work with basically Cloud, GPT, Gemini, and all the other AI. Now, if I'll talk about auto function or tool discovery, so my API will never be able to do that. RAG will never be able to do that. LangChain, somehow it will be able to do that, but MCP in a fully automatic way. it will be able to do a auto tool discovery. It will be able to interact, it will be able to connect with the different system and different setups automatically, and then eventually it is going to process the entire data set. So this is where a difference between API, RAG and LangChain and MCP comes into a picture, guys. And like I said, so we will keep on exploring this entire topic as we are going to progress further inside our class. With that, thank you so much. See you again in my next lecture, guys. Okay, so welcome to another lecture, guys. So in this lecture, I'm going to just give you some sort of an idea that what could be a real world operation or task that we can try to perform with the help of this entire MCP concept, or the concept that we are going to learn. So I think we should look into our syllabus first, and I believe you all will be able to get an answer that what is a real world operation that you all can perform with the help of MCP, because this is where this entire project I have mentioned, and this is where we are going to focus more and more. So AI powered student assignment grader. We all know that assignment grading is a tough task, right? We have to, whether like some teacher is trying to grade an assignment for mathematics, physics, chemistry, or maybe even a coding assignment, technical, non-technical assignment, it takes a lots and lots of effort, and it's kind of a repetitive effort. My model, my Cloud, my GPT can understand, can read each and everything, even a handwritings. My model can understand even all the diagrams which you are going to draw on a paper, or maybe if you are going to draw on a digital like assignments or whatever you can do, it is going to interpret it, it is going to read it out, and it is going to even do a scoring, it is going to give you a marks, right? So this is where one of the application in like a real world we can try to use, which is a AI powered student assignments. Now the second one is dynamic market research agent. So let's suppose if I'm trying to research about some of the stocks, or maybe if I'm into a edutech, and if I would like to know that in a upskilling segment, again in a upskilling segment there are two things, tech upskilling and non-tech upskilling. So in a tech upskilling segment, what is the market size, and who is all like who and all competitors are there, what is how the market is going to grow on a year basis, how my competitors are doing in terms of maintaining their EBITDA, in terms of maintaining their PAT margins, or anything, right? So obviously it can go out, and then it will be able to like gather all the data, scrap all the websites, it will be able to generate a summary, create a final report, and give it to me. Again, MCP, right? Where it is connected to a multiple data sources, it is trying to understand me that what I'm asking, and then eventually it is going to give me the final report, or even if I'm looking for a SWOT analysis. So dynamic research agent, again another real world example. Medical research and diagnosis agent. So I think we all know that to diagnose a report, we go to a doctor or we go to a practitioners, and then like even in medical research, right? So for any kind of like a summary, or for any kind of advancement, or for any kind of new things that we try to develop with respect to a medical research, we go and we try to like help, or we like try to like take a help of a real human being, even for a diagnosis. Now again, so I can try to leave that work to my AI agent or my MCP servers, that okay fine, so this is the access of the data, now take it and then try to perform the diagnosis, or try to perform some sort of a medical research. Another real world example, live file analyzer and insight generator. I believe just by name you must be able to understand whether what I'm talking about. So whenever file comes into a picture, what is there inside the file? So whether how much important it is, in which category this particular file falls into, what are the error if I'm looking for. So each and everything, it will be able to do it on a regular basis automatically. So again, another practical example, a real life example, a customer support agent with a live ticket. So obviously we take a services from a different company for a different product. So even you must be taking a service from Euron, and you must be having some sort of a concern where you are going to raise a ticket, you are going to write a mail to us, and obviously responding back to all of you is a crucial task. And obviously we have to be active 24/7 so that you all will be able to get a response immediately as soon as possible. Now I can just try to configure my entire MCP server. So it will be able to access your data, it will be able to understand your query, it will be able to understand Euron and what is available, what is not. And immediately it will be able to respond back with respect to maybe a files, assignments, video upload, class lectures, new updates, everything, everything means everything. So this is where this customer support agent and live ticketing lookup come into a picture. Now the another project is basically a real-time book summary generator. So I believe just by name we all are able to understand stock market analyzer, job finder, and resume matching agent that we are already using it inside our jobs and resume AI. If you are going to combine this one, so yes, we are using such kind of a agent or such kind of a server even inside this resume and a job AI. So lot of examples you all will be able to see just inside a Euron ecosystem itself, where we are using an agent, we are using even a MCP, and a lot of many things we are trying to use it. So these are the real world example, guys, and I believe it will be fun to talk about all of these real world example with all of you. So where we are going to build a real project by writing a code, by doing it in a step-by-step manner, and finally taking it to the production. So with that, thank you so much, everyone. See you again in the next lecture. So in this lecture, guys, so we have to do a setup for our small server client kind of architecture that we are going to create, that we are going to build with the help of Python. So where I will be writing something inside a server, my client will be able to access it, but in a MCP way. So this is something that we are going to understand, and I'm going to use a library called as FastMCP. Why I'm going to use it, we'll try to understand that particular part. But before that, so let's go ahead and let's try to do a setup for this one. So I'm assuming that VS Code must be available inside your system. So please try to open up a VS Code, or if you want, so you can try to open up your PyCharm as well. That's completely fine. There is no issue at all. And let's go ahead and let's try to set up the complete environment. So first of all, I'll go to file. I'll try to create a folder. So open folder, and then maybe into my D drive. So I can try to create MCP, and inside this, I can try to create demo setup folder. So fine, this will be created, and don't worry, anyhow I'm going to share this entire code. So whatever like a code that I'm going to generate over here, everything will be shared with all of you. So here I have created a directory. Now inside this directory, what I'm supposed to do is, so I'm supposed to do a complete setup. So I can try to use my base environment, or I can try to create some different environment, and then I can try to use that one. It's always better to try to create a separate environment and then use that particular environment. So I'm going to use a Conda, and with the help of Conda, I'm going to create a separate environment for this particular project where I'm going to install a specific library. So here I'll just go to my like a CMD, and then I'll write Conda create -n. I can try to give an environment name. So let's suppose I'm writing it MCP underscore test. For example, MCP test, and then over here, so I can try to write maybe a Python version. So Python version is equal to 3.10. So this is the version I'm going to install it over here. Okay, so I'm going to hit enter, and this is going to create an environment for me. So yes, proceed ahead with the package, and it is going to install all of these packages inside this environment called as MCP underscore test, and I will be using this environment to show you a small demo. Okay, so how to activate it? Simple. So Conda activate MCP test, you have to write, as you can see over here, and your environment will be activated. As you can see, my environment is activated over here, MCP test. Fine. So once your environment is ready, what I'm going to use as a library. So I'm going to use two major library over here. So one is a FastAPI library I'm going to use, and another one is basically I'm going to use a FastMCP. Now, so what is this FastAPI? So obviously it is going to help you out to create the entire API, wrap it up in a bundle, and then expose it to the outer world. So this is where this is going to help you out. And if I'll talk about a FastMCP, so it is nothing but a supporting library for a FastAPI, which is going to help you out to build a MCP server. Now here, so I have to install two things, but again, you have to make sure that to be like a very particular with a FastMCP version, because I have tested with the multiple version and it is not going to work. It is going to give you an issue with a different version. So the version which I'm going to suggest you is basically, so you can do pip install FastMCP, and then the version is going to be 2.1.2. 2. So this is the version that you are supposed to install. So pip install fast MCP. Yeah. So this is the version that you are supposed to install. Maybe you can try to do a pip list after that to check pip list, and then you can try to check. So what is the version of the fast MCP which was involved? So version of fast MCP is 2.1.2 and fast API is already available over here. So I don't have to even worry about the fast API, and fast MCP is already available. Now these are the library installation that I need. Now if I would like to create my requirement.txt over here, so what I can do is I can write pip phrase and then requirements.txt, requirements, requirement.txt, freze. Yeah. So pip freeze requirement.txt. So it is going to create a requirement.txt so that this is the same requirement you will be able to install in any other environment. So wherever you are going to migrate your code, so you will be able to install it, and then maybe like you can try to add a couple of more library if it is required, depends upon the project. Now I'm going to create two files over here. So one is basically a server underscore MCP underscore test dot py file, and then I'm going to create client underscore MCP underscore test dot py file. So these are the two files that I'm going to create, and these are two files which I will be using in my next lecture. Thank you so much, guys. See you again in the next lecture. I believe we are able to create the environment. Now this is the environment that we are going to use it immediately. Okay, so welcome to the lecture, guys, and in this lecture we are going to see a small demo of this Python demo, I will say, where we are going to create a server. Inside a server we are going to create a tool, and then we'll be having a client. So client is going to communicate with the server, and then it is going to fetch some of the result. It is going to execute some of the function or tool, you can say. It will be able to call some of the tool which I'm going to register with MCP, right? With MCP, and it is going to give me some sort of a response. So let's go ahead and let's try to execute this entire things one by one. So first of all, I'll try to import some of the things. I believe we have already done the setup. We have already done the installation. I'm not going to ask to a copilot, by the way. So here I can try to write. So import a fast MCP, MCP from fast MCP import fast MCP. Okay, so this is one thing why I'm getting this. I don't want to ask copilot. Close this one. Okay, so fast MCP. Now the second import that we have to do is basically a fast API. Fast API, so which is going to create like an entire wrapper, and then like I can expose it as an API. So fast API, all small, and then out of this import basically fast API. Then the third one that we are like supposed to import is called as UV corn over here. Okay, so there are three import that is required, guys, to understand this entire situation. And then as we are going to progress, so I'm going to talk about the use cases of this one. So here, let's come over here and then try to create a fast API object, and then let's try to create a MCP server object. So MCP fast MCP I can try to call, and then maybe I can try to give my server name that it's a demo server for test, right? This is the name. Let's suppose I'm going to give for now, demo server for test. So here we are able to create an app which I'm going to use it to expose to the outer world, and then here I'm going to like create an object for the MCP. Now what I have to achieve, so here I'm going to write a very simple function. I'm going to expose it as a MCP with the help of MCP protocol. I'm going to expose it so that my client, my other piece of the code, will be able to access it. So here I'm going to write a simple function multiply over here. I'm going to pass two variable, let's suppose a comma b, and then it is going to return a into b, as simple as that. Now this is a very basic function, as you guys can see, right? Now, so what I'm trying to perform, or what I'm trying to achieve with the help of this basic function, is that I wanted to treat this function as a tool. I wanted to expose this entire function with the help of MCP protocol, so that going forward, I'm going to show you that even with the help of OpenAI, even with the help of Cloud, you will be able to access it. So I'm just trying to do something by which I will be able to access it through the with the help of AI, or maybe as of now with the help of client, I will be able to access it. So here MCP dot tool I can try to use as a decorator, and then I can try to expose it, or I can try to register it as a under MCP protocol. This is how simple it is, guys. It's very, very simple. If you'll go and check, if you'll see, it's actually very, very simple to create a MCP. Now this is the only step that I have done, by which I'm just trying to convert my entire piece of a code as a MCP. Now here, what my FastAPI is trying to do, so it's nothing. It is basically a main object of the entire application I'm trying to create. So where it is going to handle all the HTTP requests. So from wherever it is going to come, it is going to handle the HTTP request. It's basically a core of my entire API server. And then here I'm just trying to convert this entire function in as a tool, as a MCP tool. As simple as that, right? Now, moving ahead with the next functionality. So what is the next functionality? So here the next functionality is a endpoint. So which will be called by my client. As of now, I'm going to access it with the help of some other Python code. So obviously from a client, I will try to access something, and then that client, that something is going to access my tool. This is what I want. So here, what I can do is I can try to write a function. So call multiply, so which will be called by my client at the end of the day. So because client is going to pass a data, right? So client is going to pass a data, or client is going to pass some values a comma b, then only I am going to perform some operation, right? So client is going to pass some data. Now I'm going to process those data. Now after processing those data, I'm going to do a tool calling. Tool calling means this MCP call I'm going to make. As I can say, it's a very simple one, right? So here, let's suppose I'm going to write this function. So maybe data wise, so I'm going to receive a data from my client server. So I'm saying that okay, so if client is going to send a data into a JSON format means maybe into a key value kind of a format. So I'm going to read those data, and then after reading those data, so I'll try to basically process those entire data. So here I'm going to write maybe a variable, that data. So data will come as a dictionary, DICT. I'm going to write is equal to take the complete body of the data, and then I can give a 3 dot over there. The meaning of 3 dot is very simple. 3 dot means I'm expecting some input. That's it. So whenever client is going to call, I'm expecting some input. Now it is going to return. It is going to return what? So it is basically going to return a result. Result after what? So after doing this A into B operation, means I'm expecting some data from a client. Client is going to send it, and then I'm going to multiply. Means internally I'm going to call this particular tool MCP, and finally I will try to return some data. So I'll try to return some data by calling this tool MCP internally. Now what I'm going to do, so I'm going to pass a data, because this multiply function is taking A and B, right? So once I have received the data, I can simply write over here the data dot get, and get what? So get the value of A, right? Value of A. So maybe I can try to give a default is equal to 0, and then the second data. So data dot get, and get the value of what? So get the value of B variable. Maybe I can try to send it as a default is equals to 0. Now this one is going to help me out to get a data from a client, and whenever client is going to call, right? And then it is going to multiply, and finally it is going to give me the result. Now here, so how client will be able to call it? Obviously I have to expose this to my client, this function to my client. So I can try to use a FastAPI to expose it just in an API way. So we can try to write over here that app.post. I can try to use post method over here. So app.post, and my client will be able to access this entire functionality at which URL. So whatever URL on which I want my client to access it, I can try to create my own URLs. Maybe I can write over here that Euron, You can write any URL, that's completely fine. Just you have to write the same URL inside your client. So Euron slash MCP slash multiply, right? So I have just written this URL. So whenever client is going to call this URL, it is going to basically invoke this one, and this is invoking basically which one? Multiply, right? Multiply, and that you will be able that I'm going to return as a result. Maybe I can write a result over here. Result, that I'm going to return it as result. Okay, so this is fine. This is done. Now I can try to start my server, or I can write one more function over here. So maybe a def home. So whenever someone is going to like hit my base URL or home URL, so they will be able to get this message. You can say JSON format of message. I'm going to return welcome to the demo of MCP. So this is something which I can write, and then here I can try to expose it as a at the rate app dot get, this one. Okay, so at the rate app dot get. Now, so this function is ready. Now this function will be called by this one. This is just a extra I have written so that whenever someone is going to call the root URL, right? So like a URL and then port number, you will be able to see this message. So it's not necessary. You can write it or you can just leave it. That's completely fine. Then you can try to invoke this entire thing. So underscore name underscore is equal to underscore main underscore. So just invoke a main function of a Python file. And then with the help of UVCon, which is going to under the hood, which is going to call the HTTP server, and then it is going to like allow your entire URL to get exposed. So UVCon dot run, and here so I can try to write that try to run what? So try to run basically this particular try to run this particular app, the FastAPI app that I've created, this object I have created. And then I can try to write maybe a host port number over here. So host port number is 127.0.0.1, a local host basically. And then I can try to even write a port number over here. So port number is nothing but, let's suppose I'm writing 8088, right? So this is the port number, or maybe 89 I'm going to write if I have used this 88. So in that case, so you can run and then this port number. Now UVICORN. Yeah, so UVICORN. Yeah, looks great. Okay, so everything looks great. I believe I have a UVCon. Yeah, I do have UVCon. Sorry, not from. I can write maybe import UVCon. Yeah. Okay. So all of these things are done, and my server is basically ready now. So my server is ready to serve. What I can do is maybe I can try to test this entire server. I can try to maybe execute it and then see that whether it's running or not. So maybe I can just go to my command prompt. I can try to select my environment, the environment which I have created last time. So conda activate, and I don't remember the environment which I have created last time. So yeah, MCP test is the environment I believe I have created. Let me activate it. So MCP test. So MCP test is basically activated, where I have done all the setup and I have installed each and everything. Now to execute this entire server, right? And inside the server, I have one tool calling, right? I just have only one tool calling. So what I can do is I can write Python and then server MCP test. So Python is not recognized as internal or external command. Spelling mistake. Python Python server MCP test, and it is telling me that body is not defined. Okay, so body I forgot to import, I believe, from FastAPI. Okay, let's import it. It's a part of your FastAPI. So body, fine. So which is helping me out to read the entire data from the client. Okay, so my MCP server is up and running at this particular URL on this particular port. So maybe I can go and I can try to check it. I can try to even test it. So let me open up this one and here, so I can try to test it. So here it is showing me a message, welcome to a demo of MCP. That's the reason. So I have written that piece of a code, guys. So this was the reason. So I have written basically this piece of the code, so that on a home screen, so whenever you are going to make your server up, you will be able to see some sort of a messages. Now my server is up and it is ready to serve. I can try to like use a postman. I can try to test it. I can that can behave as a client. My API can behave as a client, or even AI. If I'm going to integrate OpenAI and if I'm going to integrate a Cloud, so even that is going to behave as a client for me. So I can try to make anyone as a client. Now, in a very first phase, let's try to use just a Python code, and then going forward, so I'll keep on adding AI and other tools as well. Okay, so let's do it. So here I'm going to write a client set of the code, which is going to be very, very basic and very, very simple. So I can write over here. So import RE request. Okay, so just try to import a request, and then I'm going to write def test multiply. So I'm just going to write a testing function over here inside this client, so that I will be able to test. Now here, so whenever I'm going to call this test multiply, so obviously I'm supposed to pass a value of two variable A and B. I can write a different name over here. That's completely fine, right? And then what I can do is, so while calling this function, so test multiply function, so I can try to maybe write over here that request dot post request, because I have used a post protocol over there, and post request to what? So post request to basically this URL, the URL which I have exposed, this URL, and include this one, so that it will be able to reach out to this particular function, right? It will be able to reach out to this particular function. So this is the complete URL that we have now. So at this URL, I will be able to call what? I will be able to call basically this one. And this function is calling a tool, which is, what is a tool? Multiplication tool, which is actually going to do the multiplication. So I'm going to use this particular URL. I'm going to call this particular URL, and I'm supposed to pass a data, right? So this is basically my URL, and I'm going to pass a data. So JSON data, let's suppose I'm going to pass in a key value pair. So here, so value of A, I can even make it dynamic. So value of A is 4 and value of B is basically 9, right? So this is the value, this is the data which I'm going to pass to this particular one. Yeah, this particular one. Now, so once you will be able to send a request, then we can try to check if response, sorry, so let me save this request into a variable called as response. So whatever response I'm going to get. So if response dot status code is equal to 200, means executed successfully. Yeah, then print what? So print basically multiplication MCP called successfully. As simple as that, multiplication MCP called successfully. And if we are able to call that MCP successfully, and if I'm able to get the response, so maybe we can try to take out the result, and then we can try to print the result. So result wise, so response dot, I can try to call JSON, and it will be having a result. So let's try to take out result out of it. Why we are calling result? Because we have written result over here, right? So whatever result it is going to give, it is going to attach it with respect to this particular key. So I'm just trying to call that particular key so that I will be able to see the result, nothing much. Yeah, so now this is going to give me that. Now I can maybe write else over here, and a simple like a print there was an issue. Fine. Okay. Now this function is done. What I can do is I can write if underscore underscore name underscore underscore is equal to underscore underscore main underscore underscore. Okay, fine. And then I can try to call my test multiply function. I can try to pass maybe a value of a and b. So, oh, sorry, I have hard coded this one over here. So a is equals to a and b is equals to b. I can write a is equals to a, b is equals to b. Yeah, same value which I'm taking over here. I can try to take c or d, whatever it is, nothing doesn't matter at all, because anyhow I'm doing a mapping over here. So test multiply, and then here, so I can try to pass my data. Maybe I can try to pass 6,7 in this particular place. Okay, so this is basically a client. Maybe I can try to like I can try to call another command prompt, and then here, so I can try to change my environment. Conda activate MCP, I believe test. This is the environment that we have created. Yeah, this is the environment that we have created. Fine. And then try to call Python client MCP test. No module name requests. Okay, not an issue. So I'll just do a pip install request and it will be able to install it. Okay, now once it's done, so Python client MCP test, just try to call it. And as you can see, 6 into 7. Now multiplication MCP called successfully and 42. This is the answer. Multiplication MCP called successfully and we are able to get a response. Means this is able to, right? This is able to. I can even use my URL, right? I'm just trying to show you with the help of Python code going forward. So I will try to show you with the Postman, with the URL, many approaches. Many approaches are there. So maybe I can try to use multiple things, by which I will be able to show you same client server communication. But the main point which I'm trying to explain you over here is that this was my client. It is trying to call this particular URL. Now at this URL, we have what? So at this URL, we have basically this function, a simple function. This is the API call. Till this point, there is no MCP call. There is just an API call, right? Till this point. Now inside this function is trying to call MCP. So what I have done is that I have just exposed this function as a tool. So I have basically like attached a MCP protocol with my multiply. Now, what is the advantage? As of now, maybe most of you will not be able to see a lot of advantages, but going forward, when I'm going to integrate the same code base with my OpenAI, or maybe like a ChatGPT, Cloud, if I'm going to integrate with those systems, you will be able to find out that I'm just calling multiply and it is able to like do the multiplication, and that too by using this tool call, right? So you don't need that one. These basically these things, right? It will be able to call multiply directly. That is something which I'm trying to show you guys. Yeah, with the help of this particular MCP tool. So a lot to discuss, lot to we have a lot to experiment in her upcoming lectures, guys. So with that, thank you so much, everyone, and see you again in my next lecture.